on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
I want what's best for the patients. I don't want like somebody coming from the Galapagos Dental School and, coming in and waving a scaler and thinking they know everything. I mean, I would feel better as a hiring manager to get somebody who has gone through a program that says, okay, yes, we approve. Big elephant in the room is that dentists are pretty mad at the situation that they're in when it comes to hygiene and hygiene hiring. And if this can alleviate a little bit and maybe get some more normalization going on out there, because I think right now and I'll just put myself in that bucket just because of what we're talking about today. What we're mad about is that we feel like we have to hustle a lot more to make the numbers work and to make the staffing work. And pre-COVID, the hustle just wasn't as painful. It just wasn't.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 453. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and this is a very fun episode with Teresa Duncan, and we tackle a couple of really important topics, one being foreign-trained dentist and kind of what that means in dentistry, and then also kind of a little bit later on, more about the conversation of these dental compacts that seem to be continually creeping up in every conversation. So we talk about that a little bit more, and if I'm being honest, after we recorded this episode, I had a lot to think about because I've always come at these topics from the viewpoint of a clinician and what that would mean for me if some of these things passed and et cetera. But also as a former member of a state dental hygiene committee where our main focus was about public safety, I come from it really strongly from a patient safety perspective, and maybe I'm just a little bit too cautious. So one of the things I liked about this one, though, was that Teresa really made me think and reevaluate some of my stances. And it's really hard. It's hard to admit this, but I want to think that I'm right, and the way I look at things is probably for the greater good. But in reality, I think there's a lot of viewpoints that we need to be considering, even as clinicians, even if you're just someone that's a chairside clinician, and these things are brought to public opinion or whatever. I think that we need to look at it from all different angles because there are parts of dentistry, including, the short staffing issue that we're having, that have a huge detriment on patient safety by way of them not being able to see a clinician. And I don't necessarily always see it that way. So I'm very grateful that Teresa was able to kind of help me see a couple things. So that's where I'm at. I'm still reevaluating. I'm still trying to think about some of these topics. But, in this episode, you're going to kind of hear kind of where I was currently and maybe where I might end up, who knows. But it's a pretty long conversation, and I really wish that we could have captured some of the off-air comments because Teresa's just always a good time. But because it's so long, this is it from the intro. There's nothing else going on. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy this episode with Teresa Duncan.
A tale of two hygienists.
Listeners, welcome into the interview portion of the podcast. I am joined today by Teresa Duncan. Teresa, thank you for being here.
Appreciate you having me on. Always appreciate it.
Listeners, so just a little bit of background of like what this episode may or may not be. We actually don't know what it's going to be, but I was fired up. I was a little feisty this morning. I was looking for a fight, actually, and I said, Teresa, I'm looking for a fight. And she's like, oh, so you contacted me. Great. And I'm like, yeah, because we fight all the time, apparently. I didn't really think about that, but I'm fired up because I just had another conversation about this compact, this portability thing, and I want to get into that. But then you brought up a good topic that I still want to discuss with you as well about the foreign trained dentist, which is also another one of my passion discussions thing. And so I don't know. I mean, are we flipping the script? Am I going to be interviewed basically kind of on this one? I'm going to tell you my thoughts, and then you're going to tell me why I'm wrong or
for
poke
sure.
holes in
Yeah.
my thoughts?
Yeah. So what I want to do is pick it apart and grill you on it because I know a little bit about it, but not enough. Yeah. And so I challenge you to educate me and then And then whatever I push back on, like the answer can't be you can't just say, well, that's just what I think, or right.
Oh, that's just because of the way it is. No,
right.
no. And, but you're right. And that, so I love that, because that is my frustration with everybody, is they're saying, look, that's just the way it is. Or that's the way it has to be, or whatever. I'm like, no, there's a reason, and we have to discuss the reason. And part of this though, Teresa, I'm also kind of looking at this like I could be very wrong on all of my thoughts and opinions. So if you push on like a really good point, I might have to change my opinion and be like, submit a retraction episode of all my thoughts.
And vice versa, because, you come at it from the clinical point of view, and you're also like, you have the high level, like board, and you've been you've been involved in a lot of like figuring out what's going on with the boards, and you keep track of that. Like, you definitely are on top of that. Me coming from the office manager mindset, I'm more looking at legislative stuff that affects insurance and all of that. So, and as a former office manager, all of this stuff definitely would impact me. But I don't have your viewpoint. So this is actually good. We've got like, we're both fans of each other's occupations, love my hygiene friends. You've grown to love your office manager friends. No, I'm kidding. You've always loved them.
I always I've always been loving and supportive.
So
my office managers themselves wouldn't agree to that, but like you guys didn't know that.
I mean, come on. We just put on that grumpy face, but we're actually fun people up front.
You are.
I swear.
Yeah, you are. All right. So the topic at hand in this particular one is, and correct me if I'm getting it wrong, is essentially finding a fast track for foreign trained doctors to be licensed in the United States as doctors, and if that's a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah. So
why do you want this to be enacted? Like, why is this a good thing for you all?
Because you have areas where there's RDH deserts. I mean, there's shortages of RDHs, or RDHs. What I have also been hearing from managers is that there's plenty of them that are out there, but they don't necessarily want to work full time. They don't so they, what we as managers and business owners, like, we want to have stability. We want to have predictability. So if I have a full-time hygienist on staff, 2 or 3, like, I know that my schedule, if I book something, it's not going to fall apart. Well, if I have to rely on temps, that are, I mean, and more power to you guys for doing your own schedule and stuff. Don't get me wrong. That's not where I'm coming from, but I need predictability. So if I get 3 weeks full of patients and, you're like, well, I don't have a contract with you and I got an offer over here, I'd like to go take a vacation. I mean, good for you, but now I got to hustle. So to me, in these areas where I don't have that bevy of RDHs looking for full time, is there a population that could fast track up because they have the clinical still? I just don't want to hire anybody off the street, right? Like, definitely my patients deserve people who know what they're doing. And is a foreign trained dentist able to provide hygiene? I would hope so. If the foreign training actually was full dental, I would think they provided hygiene skills.
Yeah. So let me backtrack. So I was saying that they're fast tracking them to become doctors. Do you want them to be dentists that are doing hygiene procedures, or do you want them to be fast-tracked to be a hygienist?
See, this is a good clarification, because when we were going back and forth and texting, I didn't clarify that. I'm talking about being hygienists, like they could fast-track to an RDH degree. That's what I was talking about. Okay. I don't necessarily want them to fast-track to a DDS because I don't know enough about that. But I mean, just on its surface, I don't know why there wouldn't be one. I think Temple had a program for that at one point. But I don't know of any that fast tracks to RDH licensure. Okay.
So Florida already has this model, right?
Oh,
it's
good.
already enacted. So you can be a foreign trained doctor. You can come in. You do have to do some sort of a testing. It's not, you can't just, by virtue of being a dentist, like you can do it. But the boards, remember, are minimal competency. It's like the very, very basics. And they specifically are testing you towards your ability to remove calculus. So I have lots of different points of like why I think this is like a terrible idea. And the thing is, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there are plenty of amazing foreign trained doctors who were hygienists in Florida who are better than most of the hygienists that I know.
Okay.
But it depends on what country they're coming from, their training, their background, the years of experience, if they're in peri or if they weren't in peri. Like, there's so many different things that you have to think about. So big picture. My concern is that the term foreign trained dentist is stupidly broad. Like that. So you're saying 194 countries worth of dentists are all equal? Like we don't even think that the United States dentists are equal to those in Japan, who are very talented and qualified.
But isn't the onus on the board to qualify that? Because if I were to go back at you with that, I would say, I don't know how many hygiene schools there are in the U.S., but they're not all created equal either. I've hired hygienists where I'm like, where did you, like, what did you, they don't know, basic terminology, documentation is like a thought. So, I mean, and I don't want to disparage any schools in the U.S. out there, or any schools in general, but that argument I could easily apply to U.S. schools too. So it is the onus of the board or whatever testing, and this is where you know better, it's supposed to be on them. Like, and if we weren't in the industry, we're just patient Joe Schmo coming up the street, we're supposed to trust this board to screen. So shouldn't we?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about it. So the dental hygiene schools in the U.S. though at least have CODA accreditation, right? So like there's that minimum qualification of CODA says here are our standards. This is the number of hours you have to do for this, and how many contact hours, whatever. So there is a standard that they all have to at least meet. Okay. Now many of them also exceed.
That's good.
And I don't want to get into like regional differences, because I think that everyone on the podcast is tired of me like being like, okay, look, this area sucks compared to this area. But I will tell you that there's definitely regional differences, and definitely the coasts are different than like the North and the South and the Midwest. And like, there's just so much variance. And you're right to that point. I don't want to say that you're not right, but there is at least a minimum standard. And then there's multiple boards that we have to pass, like to prove, like we have a national board that we have to sit for, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So maybe it's not the boards I'm talking about. Maybe it is a program. Maybe it is a year program that they would take to get to meet that CODA. And if they can't meet it, then they either go to actual hygiene school, or they suck it up and they're like, I didn't pass. I barely passed my other school. So, okay, they caught me. So maybe we're talking about a shortened curriculum, a fast track curriculum.
And see, so I'm 100% on board with that, because as a dentist, if you went through some sort of a university program, very likely you're talking about restorative function. You're talking about maybe some simple surgical, procedures, things like that.
Right.
But let's get back into the hierarchy of like all the different problems with it. But generally, though, they don't do a lot of perio. They don't do a lot of hygiene procedures types things. They're probably not talking about sealants very often. Like there's very simple, basic things. Oral cancer screenings aren't really a thing that even in the United States that hygienists have been doing for very long, even though it's still within their scope of practice. Now, especially with the advent of DSOs, it's really been pushed on the hygienist to do these oral cancer screenings with or without, assistance like a Velscope or something like that, some devices. Sure. But let's go back to the board though. So the issue with this foreign trained doctor thing is the onus. If it's on the board, they would have to know 195 countries worth of stuff, and these are volunteers that are, not really getting paid. I don't want to make the board member sound really bad, but like, they're primarily thinking and focusing on U.S. based things that they are completely aware of. I don't think that it's really fair to expect board members to understand educational requirements at a university level, even though that they went through them themselves. I don't think that they would know that, let's say Argentina has 5 dental schools. I don't know how many they have. Right. But let's just say they have 5. They would have to go through the curricula for all of the classes at every single school, and what a time consuming thing that would be. And then if that curricula ever changes, they have to be updated, times that by every dental school in the whole entire world. I think that's just, it's not really something that you could expect, because there's not the same basic standards across dental schools across the world.
Okay. So if we take it away from just the boards and put it into, they have to actually take a program and meet those, I think we could agree on that, because I want what's best for the patients. I don't want like somebody coming from the Galapagos Dental School and, coming in and waving a scaler and thinking they know everything. I mean, I would feel better as a hiring manager to get somebody who has gone through a program that says, okay, yes, we approve. I mean, there's liability involved in that too. But if the state board so something about what you said troubles me, and I don't know enough about it, so maybe I'm overreacting, but if the state board has to keep up with all these different curricula, I kind of feel like there should be a standard, which is probably a drum you're beating. There should be kind of a standard where they don't have to do that. So it almost feels like it's double work from a total outsider point of view.
Right.
But it's probably a topic for another thing. So if we take it away from the state boards and it's just this kind of formality thing that they have to take, then yeah, maybe the schools could step up. And I think, I mean, I really would love to see that happen, because not every foreign trained dentist comes to the U.S. with enough money to go through a fast track foreign trained dental program.
Correct.
RDH is another perfect, track for them. And who knows, maybe they'll like it better too.
Oh, and a lot of them do that. In Florida, there's a lot of them that just like, look, I'm never going to go back. I mean, the money's good, right? And they're able to support their family. They're able to send money back to their family, in their home country. So I like that. And I would be, so Washington State has this thing. So their version of an FDA, right, is different. Everyone has a different version, but their FDA does, all of the regular assisting procedures, but also places fillings. So it's a restorative function. And they have to, they take their courses. And these courses, from what I remember from before, I think they're still the same, but they are put through the hygiene program restorative courses, just like we are. Okay. And they have to sit for a board, a restorative board, just like hygienists do. So everything is exactly the same. So what you're saying is like, if they go through, and it could be an expedite, it could be a 6-month course, because if you're a doctor, you're going to get concepts a lot faster. You just have to learn, what these instruments do and when to use them and how to use them. Sure. But you kind of already know how to work subgingivally, right? You're not like starting from nothing, right? Like
you're not teaching them fulcrum all over again,
exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
So you're good. You're good.
Good job on fulcrum, by the way.
Thank you. I picked some things up from you.
Expedite. 6 months and then sit for the same boards we have to sit for, right? Yeah. I think they should sit for a national board too. And I know that sounds really like kind of a bit of a stretch, but I think they should have to sit for the national board. And they should have to sit for, a competency, hand skills based board as well.
Well, and there's nothing saying that even if you do the minimum level, like me as a manager of a dentist, that may actually say, you know what, that's kind of enough, but why don't we have them sit for this other board? Like I mean, there would definitely be some CE being pushed in separate offices over there. So, I mean, we're talking about like a minimum here. And if I think we can agree on what you just proposed as a minimum. I mean, I would be more comfortable for my patients. Like I said, the other hygienists in the office aren't going to be like, okay, they just took a test and now they're here. So there, there's a little bit less of that. And it's going to alleviate, I think, a problem that a lot of dentists have. And I mean, the big elephant in the room is that dentists are pretty mad at the situation that they're in when it comes to hygiene and hygiene hiring. And if this can alleviate a little bit and maybe get some more normalization going on out there, because I think right now and I'll just put myself in that bucket just because of what we're talking about today. What we're mad about is that we feel like we have to hustle a lot more to make the numbers work and to make the staffing work. And pre-COVID, the hustle just wasn't as painful. It just wasn't. So we don't like being in pain. No one does.
No. And look, and I definitely feel for the, the managers and the business owners and stuff like that, because there is a shortage, and not only is there just like not enough people, there's not really a new bucket to pull from.
No.
My thought though, even if every state board enacted something like this and there were programs in the state to help them get through fast track, this is still going to be a drop in the ocean to help towards a problem. And the problem, I still hate like when people are like, well, let's let assistants then be hygienists. And it's like, well, then we're gonna have a shortage of assistants. Like we already have a shortage of assistants. It's hard to find assistants. Like that's not the thing. And similarly, it's like, look, hygienists, becoming basically doctors or mid-level providers, not the answer to help the shortage of these other areas, because now we're pulling away from the hygiene bucket that's already short also. Like there's all of these problems that we're not really solving, and I don't think we really have any answer, but like I think more schools is probably part of an answer, right? Hygiene programs and things like that.
Sure.
But I really think that dentistry has failed in general of putting a bright spot on the profession, right? And this comes from the ADA, ADHA, everyone that's involved. I mean, all of our corporate partners should be helping out with this. Saying, hey, you know what is really cool to do is to be a freaking hygienist, make a ton of money. You get yes, it's working in people's mouths, but like you get to work in a pretty relaxed environment. I mean, we're not out there in the blistering sun, pavement.
Right.
Like it's a good job, and same with being dentists. I don't think that we've done enough to, we have 340 million people or whatever in the US. We have not done a good job of saying, hey, come be one of the 200,000,
Yeah.
Not doing a good job with that.
I agree with you completely. I think our industry does not pat itself on the back. We don't elevate, we don't try to draw more people in. Everybody is almost, and I make this joke in classes, we're all accidental employees. Like we kind of fall into dentistry. When I graduated from school, I didn't think, ooh, dentistry. It just kind of happened. It was an in-between job. And then it's very Godfatherish, right? Like they suck you in and then you try to leave and you end up going back. But here's the thing that like, when you go to high school people and like I've said to my little cousins when they were in high school, you could always be an office manager, assistant, hygienist or whatever. And they're just first thing they think is like, ooh, mouths. And then I'm like, ooh, look at your nails. Like, come on now. Like, ooh, what do you mean, ooh? Like, there's ooh everywhere. Just get a good paying job, right? So, like, people who work in, like, I make the joke about nails, like, because working on someone's feet, giving a pedicure is very ooh to me, but lots of people go to, nail tech school and all of that, or people go in, like, being a vet. I would never want to be a vet tech because, like, there's a lot of emotion there, but also dogs are very cute until they're sick. So I ooh to that too. So there's a lot of ooh out there. And if we don't get out there and advertise to the general public that we're pretty cool, our offices are pretty cool to work in, to be in, no one's going to think to come to us. So yeah, it's a total failure of our organized industry, but also us in general. Like, when was the last time, when someone said, so what do you do? And you go, oh, I'm a hygienist. Oh, you work in people's mouths. When was the last time you clapped back and was like, and I hate that term. I can't believe I said that. When was the last time you said back to them, no, dude, I love my job. Are you kidding me? This is like the best job in the world. Most of the time we're like, oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like, what are you going to say to that? Maybe you do. I don't.
I have a different opinion on that. I mean, that's been, and when it's always like, hey, have you look at this tooth here, oh, don't look at my teeth. Gross. They're not white enough or what, all the different things. But
yeah, but when you're single, that's great because if somebody wants to show you the rotten tooth, like, they're off the, like you're done, like you're swiping whatever side, like you're done. Yeah.
No, I look, I've always loved the profession. I've always talked to, especially the high school kids that would come in through my chair and be like, look, do you want to know what I do? Like, let's watch this appointment. Me and you, we're going to do this together. And you're going to say, and I, by the way, I make a crap ton of money. And I have vacation time and I've traveled all over the world and I do all these really fun things and I have a family that I'm supporting. Let's just watch this appointment and see if this is something you could do. And every time they're like, dang, that was actually pretty good. I'm getting to like have a chit chat basically with my patients and the time's passing by quick for me. Like, it's a win on all different things.
Well,
anyways.
Then, you know what? Honestly, I want you to make a podcast episode about that and challenge your viewers and I'll do the same. I mean, I'm always telling my audience members, like, recruit. Because we, as office managers, we've lost a ton of people. So our side has also lost a ton of people. Insurance coordinators, you can't keep them. It's so hard to do the job, all this, blah, blah, blah. But we need to challenge each other to do that. And maybe somebody just doesn't know what to say. So maybe you and I need to do a better job of saying, hey, you know what? You need to rope these people in. Like, our industry depends on it because it's true. So, but let me just say that you are a rarity, though. I have never once worked with a hygienist in all the offices I've been in or worked with that is like, oh, you should come do what I do. So
you know what though? Because I don't think that they have the model. I didn't have a model like either, but like,
right.
I don't think that hygienists do a good job of like promoting positivity, being like proactive, trying to get other people. Like you said, we need to get other people to do it. Like, we have a sweet gig. Like, how do you not understand how great of a life you have when you're working 2 or 3 days a week for many of the hygienists out there? And it's just like, you see 8 patients a day and you get paid good money and you have a decent, I mean, it's, if you want more shifts, you can find more shifts. I mean, especially now, like, we have a great, oh my gosh, the thermostat got to 72 instead of 68. And I mean, that's our big complaint, right? Like, that's like the biggest complaint.
You mean you don't like the office manager that tapes something over the thermostat and says, don't touch this or you're fired? Because that was me.
But you'd put yours way down though, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah,
Would you,
I
like,
need to have it. I need to have
63
it
and
cold.
it's
Yeah,
like,
because I'm so like, why am I sweating? Like, why
yeah.
am I
So
sweating? And I would
hygienists
put
would
on
love
there.
working there.
I would say, I would put on there. We actually had a cage around our thermostat. That wasn't my idea. We had a cage around the thermostat, and I had a sticker there, a post-it note that said, "Bring in a sweater next time." Like next time, like you came to change it, bring in a sweater next time. And of course, we all got along, so it was fine.
Yeah.
But you texted me this morning about compact, and I had to think because I was when you say compact to me, I'm like, oh, are we talking makeup now? Because I'm not girly, but okay,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Wait, that
And then
yeah,
and then I
blush
saw.
and
Yeah, I was like,
highlighter.
compact. Why does Andrew need compact stuff? I didn't know that about him. And then when I realized, okay, he's talking about RDH compacts, I was like, I need more information. So teach me what an RDH compact is, and
So let's even make it broader. We'll just do like dental in general because it's kind of the same idea for dentists or hygienists. It's kind of, it doesn't matter. So essentially, we're talking about portability. We're trying to get our license in one state to count to be a license in another state, kind of a thing. The problem is that's just never going to happen. The states are never going to agree to say, by virtue of you being licensed over here, you can be licensed in all 50 states and have essentially a universal license or a national license.
Okay.
That's not going to happen. So instead they said, oh, well, there's got to be a compromise. There's got to be some sort of an agreement that can happen between different states that says, if you're licensed here, then we won't make you jump through all of the hoops to get licensed over here because it might be a different regional board exam that we require, but you took a different one, et cetera. So you don't have to sit through another board exam. We'll go ahead and agree that if you're in good standing over here, just pay your fees where you're going to be in good standing over there. And the idea was really good. This isn't a new idea. This is an idea that, we've been kicking around. Before I was even really involved in the organized dentistry part of it, dental boards have been kicking this around for probably 20 years. The medical side of things has been doing this for a very long time.
Right,
and it's been done successfully on the medical side. So it's not like it can't happen.
This is like, it's reciprocity is what.
Reciprocity, yeah.
Talking.
So
okay.
all of these things.
Why didn't you all just call it reciprocity? Why are we calling it a compact? I don't understand.
So
there's nothing small about this. Why is this a compact?
So I know it's not like
where's my
go to our
thesaurus?
purse. Like, what's going on?
What is this? What?
So the thing is, like, yes, it is reciprocity, but reciprocity could be achieved by different ways of achieving it, right? So one of those ways is by having a compact or an agreement between different states.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of these things are true. So I want to back up though a little bit because this compact idea, if we would have done this 20 years ago, when we had, the Western Regional Education Board over on the West Coast and Central Regional Dental Testing Services in the central part of the U.S., and then NERB Northeast, and then CERTA Southern Regional, and then CETA and all the different ones that just existed, that would have been great. I wouldn't have to worry about, I could travel from Washington to Florida and do my CERTA exam or whatever it was at the time. And then I'd have to do another exam. And if we had compacts, then we would bypass all these exams. Did you know that there was a press release that went out that says that credits and CERTA are now joining and they're merging?
I didn't know that. So what does that mean?
Before the pandemic, there was still multiple board exams, regional exams, and they all kind of had their states kind of staked out, and they were getting bigger and more states were accepting, for example, I don't actually know, I don't have the map in front of me, but like, for example, in Ohio might say, we're going to accept REB, even though REB is a West Coast exam. Okay. They said, you know what, if you come over from California, like, we're going to still accept you guys to be able to practice in our state.
Okay.
So which is really cool. Well, as the last few years have gone on, REB has merged with CDCA and CETA has merged with CDCA. And so now they're kind of like a bigger conglomerate entity, right? So it's consolidation. You can think of it like when DSOs go and buy, multiple practices and get bigger and bigger. So for the last couple of years, it's just been now this CDCA, REB, CETA agency, CERTA, and then credits.
Okay.
And now credits and CERTA, through the press release, it says that the merger is pending. So this should happen, I think, later on in August. I'm not really sure when we're going to release this episode, but it should happen later on in August. And so basically there's going to be two left. Now, if you look at their portability map, if you look at, okay, if I take the CDCA exam, where can I go move to? Like, what state accepts this?
Right.
It's the majority of the states. And I don't have a number for you, but it's in the 40s. I mean, it's not quite 50, but it's pretty darn close.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything bad so far.
And dental hygiene, right. Okay, right. So, and then with credits doesn't have quite as many as CDCA, but I think they're still in that 40s range for their exams. So if I am now a high school student, a hygiene student, and I am looking at having this reciprocity, having this portability, either one of these exams is pretty much going to get me to most of the states that I want to get to.
Okay.
Right.
So does it make sense to take both or just one?
No, it doesn't make sense to do both because there's costs involved in that. And it's, and so there's that. But to also kind of spice it up even more. So the Reb hygiene exam, the credits hygiene exam, the Certa hygiene exam were all pretty darn different pre-pandemic.
Okay.
It was patient-based, right? You had a lot of variability. The grading criteria was all kind of a little bit different. Now fast forward to the boards, the dental boards for the states have changed their legislation that says, you know what, you don't have to do live patient exams anymore. Now we're going to do mannequin-based exams, right?
Okay.
So a lot of things happened when that happened. I think it was in a way very, very fair playing field for every candidate, right? Because there's that consistency, that quality control for everyone was taking the same exact exam, right?
Okay.
Which is really nice. But between the agencies, it kind of leveled that playing field too. There's different grading criteria still, and there's different ways of executing the exam. But generally, you have a mannequin that has fake calculus on it, and you're going to be removing it. For the restorative exams, which is we've always done restorative exams on mannequins for forever, so that didn't really change for hygiene. And then for dentists, they have also some streamlined things as well. And so there's not really that much variability between all these things. So a couple years ago or whatever, this whole compact idea got pushed really, really hard. And there's two compact versions that are out there right now.
Okay.
One compact version says, hey, if you take the 8X exam, which is administered by CDCA, and this is promoted by the AADB, American Association of Dental Boards.
Dental boards, okay.
They'll say, hey, if you take this exam, we'll help you reciprocity across all the states. The other one is by another entity that is backed by the ADA and the ADHA and several other agencies.
Okay.
And basically, they are a corporation that makes money by instituting like portability compacts, things like that.
Now, do the organizations that support this also make money from this?
So no,
is there rev share?
No.
Because that was my first thought. Is like, okay,
Yeah,
why are they
the
like
ADA,
official organizations going here versus?
This is I'm beyond confused by why it's. I think part of it is because I think that they want to have something that after all is said and done, they want to be able to stand up and be like, we got this thing passed. Therefore, you need to be a member. The problem is people don't have that kind of loyalty. And I think the old school guard that's in charge of this is like, oh, if we do this, they're going to be loyal to us. And that's just not how it happens, because this is really going to impact only like 1 or 2% of the population of the dental professionals.
It's amazing how that happens.
Really that big.
I know. And it's really, the whole old guard thing is another podcast topic, because it's total indicative of why membership across the board everywhere is tanking. Yeah. So we could totally, now I'm going to bitch or complain, vent. Sorry. Ooh.
No, it's okay. Say bad words. It's fine. Nope.
I'm going to female dog it. Yeah. There we go. How's that?
And so there's these whatever. And so again, if they would have done these compacts years ago when there's all this variability and whatever, that would have been great. But now we have so much homogenization going on that's like, is that thing even necessary? Now, who's also paying for this? So not only do I have to pay for my Washington state license, like I normally would have to, and my Florida license and my Oregon license, like I normally would have to. On top of that, I also have to pay a processing fee from these agencies. And then the states can also, if they choose to, add an additional fee on top of that, which, by the way, these fees aren't even set yet, but we've already passed legislation saying we're going to adopt these measures, but we don't have to say how much we're going to charge people yet. So we're now in the neighborhood. If I want to have 3 licenses, I have to pay a fee for all of that. Right now, I just have to pay my renewal fee. So why would I want to pay all these additional fees for this compact thing that I don't actually even need? And as a new graduate, I could freely go to most of the states by virtue of whatever dental exam I've already taken. So to me, this is a money grab by someone who sees an opportunity. Look, I love capitalism. Like, I don't want to, go. I love making money.
No, I get it.
But they see an opportunity to make money on the backs of all of our dental professionals, and they're solving a problem that isn't a problem anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I'm getting really frustrated about. I'm like, you guys are missing the big picture here.
All right. So when you start talking about fees and taxes, that's where, like, I love capitalism too, but I am so annoyed with excess fees and all of that kind of stuff. I don't mind paying taxes if my taxes are being used correctly. That's a whole different topic. But when it comes to the fees and all this that are associated with compacts, like, what is it for? Is it going to a foundation to help, bring more people in? Is it going to fund more people at the state board? Because those are all pretty underutilized or underfunded anyways, or underemployed. So what is that going to if it's just profit, and it's just like, oh, we can charge because we can charge, and having an open-ended part of the law that says that is definitely concerning. But I live outside of DC, so it's almost par for the course, right? So I'm in Virginia, and I know they just agreed to a compact. And so on its face, as a manager in Virginia, former manager in Virginia, I was excited about it because I thought, okay, great, now I can bring in a hygienist from across wherever. So I did not know about these extra fees and revenue opportunity. Does that mean now I'm thinking from a manager point of view, now is part of my enticing to come to work with me, now I'm going to be offering to pay these for you, because that's going to be part of it too. So as a hygienist, like, yes, I can see where you're mad about it, but now let's take it to the employer point. Now I can see, like, DSOs and multi-locations going, you know what, we'll take care of that too when they see that as the cost of recruitment. So that may not even be an issue for many of your hygienists in the future.
Let's push back on that, because I love DSO world, and I come from the DSO world. I don't want to, as a DSO, I don't want to pay those fees. So what I'd rather do.
Well, then it's silly private practices like myself who are going to be like, oh, we need to entice.
No. So, okay. So let's push back on that. So so as a DSO, with the volume of providers that I have, let's say if I'm a Heartland or an Aspen, I don't want to pay these extra fees. That adds up to probably tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that I don't want to. You know what I'd rather do, though, is let me go lobby all the different states that I'm in and say, let's just change the law to accept these two exams now across the board.
Okay. So
every single state should now accept these two exams. And that's it.
Okay, so capitalism wins in that case, because that's not now part of your overhead. That's part of your marketing expense, your advocacy expense.
Right,
so,
which you already pay for anyway.
Right, so you're good there. But me, small practice, I'm like, okay, you know what? If the Aspen doesn't want to offer it, I'll offer it. So,
but you wouldn't need to, because Aspen already legislated for you.
Not yet.
The fact, well, not yet, but the fact, well, and you're. Just because you guys have the compact doesn't mean you guys can take just anybody. Like, there has to be an agreement between very specific states. Okay. And so that's a whole nother thing, which is like, okay, you're going to be marketing to, let's say it's Washington State's one of the ones that also accepted it. So let's say you guys have this agreement or whatever between the two different states that, you guys can go freely between the two.
Right.
Now you have to go market to a bunch of Washington people and be like, hey, Virginia is a great place to live.
Well, I don't think we do that.
You know what I mean?
Like that. So, Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, areas around us that
only if they're part of the compact, though, because a lot of states aren't going to be a part of it.
Well, I'm thinking managerial wise, like, I'm going to go hit areas of the country that don't have high cost of living, because then it's going to be cool to come and work with us with our higher income. Washington State and California is going to look at our income levels and be like, it's like no big deal, because it's the same. So, but it's not what we're talking about today. Sorry, I digressed. But the whole thing with the compacts, so really, and maybe I'm simplifying this, you're not happy because there's going to be extra maintenance fees and service fees, and there's unnecessary complexity to the process. That's what you're angry about?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. Angry is probably like although I'm fired up about, I'm feisty about. Yes, I wouldn't say I'm angry about it. I don't care that much about it to be angry about it.
No, however, I get it,
but yeah. So my thing is, like, it's just like any other workflow. Why are you creating 5 more steps in my workflow that I don't have to do? It's just doesn't make sense.
So yeah, and so maybe my tolerance level for this is higher as working on the admin side, because dealing with doctors' licensure, like there's so much we have to keep track of. There's so many things we decide whether or not to renew. So many dentists not renewing their DEA license because I'm not even prescribing anything, right? So we have to figure out those extra assessments and texts and workflows. And administratively, I'm used to taking 5 steps to get to the finish line. So I'm going to gently say to you that the complexity of it is what you really don't like. And I think that's part of business. I think it's just going to get more. So
it's not just the complexity though, because like, for instance, you could still go to Ohio. If you guys are accepting the same exams no matter what, you still go to Ohio and market to those people and say, move over to here because it's a great place to live and you have all these different things, whatever. And you don't have to pay anything to do that.
Well, so what I would love is that you guys would have this kind of nationwide. I mean, am I missing it here? Like, why can't we have reciprocity? Like, you guys take one thing, like you said in the very beginning, we'll never have that where there's one
national
test.
License.
And I thought to myself, why is that? Because what is the problem there?
Scopes of practice.
Okay, well, and honestly, like that, if a patient knew that, like somebody should do a consumer report on this, because am I now to think that if I move to, like, let's just say Fiji is an American state. Let's just, because I don't want to call out any states. And Fiji has the lowest scope of practice. Like now I'm thinking, so if I move to Fiji, this state doesn't care enough about it because the scope of practice is pretty crappy. So why do we not, and I know this is a huge conversation, why do we not have the same scope of practice across the country? That's a strange thing for me. Like, don't lawyers have that type of thing? You take the bar, right?
You take the bar in every state though, right?
And then, yeah, you do, but it's not like...
So if you practice law in New York, you can't practice law in California. There's no reciprocity there.
Okay, so maybe that's a bad example.
But
there's got to be other industries like welders, I don't know, like,
but I think
it just feels like this whole thing is so complicated from the very beginning. But I'm not seeing the problem here, except for me, from an admin point of view.
Sure.
Now I just need to know what states I can work with. But without
the compact, you can still work with all these others. That's my point. Like, you don't need a compact to work with all these states. Like, you can still do that.
But I do right now, don't I? Well, not a compact, but I do right now need to have I can't hire somebody from Washington State that has a hygiene license.
They just need to have the same exam that Virginia requires. So if Virginia
they need to come over. Okay, so they do need to take
exam,
another. So they do need to take another.
Not necessarily. So maybe Washington does. But if Ohio, if the graduate took the 8X exam and Virginia requires the 8X exam, you're done.
You're right now, then I would know. Because there are certain states where it's not a problem for them to come in, right? Like I think Michigan, you can come in.
That's what I'm saying is like, currently, right now, for a long time, this 8X exam has been widely accepted in most states.
So why are we doing compacts then?
That's what I'm saying. There's no
I know, and your audience is like, geez, but
no, they're not.
But this is the thing:
they're as bewildered as you are.
When you're trying to explain this to me, like compacts are great, and I'm thinking, okay, this is great. Like ADA is going to bat for us. So if you're telling me already they're going to bat for something I kind of already have, then now I'm like, I am bewildered. Yeah.
But some states. So this gets back into like the board side of things. So some states do. They've written into legislation very specific. So Florida, for example, they've written a very specific exam type, and it's the 8X exam administered by CDCA into the legislation. Okay. So there's no chance if you took the REB, like I took the REB, that I would have been able to get my license in Florida. So I did have to sit for another exam. I had to sit for the 8X exam.
What is the reasoning for Florida being so strict like that?
Oh, that's beyond. I mean, it's been like that for a very long time. And part of it though is I really want to advocate hard for dental boards because they have a really tough job. Their job is to protect the public.
Of course.
And so if they feel that one exam is better than the other exam at weeding out certain types of practitioners, then they're going to go for that. And they're going to be able to stand up and say, look, we have the hardest exam possible that we're allowing by our review of the exams. And so that's the only one we want to be in here because we don't want it to be lawless and just let everyone in.
There's got to be something else there. I don't believe that's the only thing. I think you have a lot of dental school. Don't you have like 2 or 3 dental schools in Florida?
Yeah.
So you probably got some pressure there, and you probably got some. I mean, you got the fees and everything there from taking the tests and stuff. I mean, everything always goes back to money, capitalism, which we both adore money. So the thing is, I don't think it's just that. I don't think it's just the biggest, strictest thing. I mean,
but that's what they can stand up and say. That's what they put their hat on and be like, this is.
I don't buy that.
This is where it is.
I don't buy that. I think it's probably rev share.
And this is well, there's no rev share. I mean, that'd be, I think,
no, but there's significant revenue, I think, from maintaining that exclusivity, because why wouldn't you? There are areas of Florida that need hygienists, that need more hygienists. So to kind of cap that is really silly.
Let me
in my mind.
Where do you think? Let's follow that money, because I'm very curious. Like, where do you think, who's getting paid in this?
Well, I'm going to think the government is making money, or whomever is making money off of tests and licensure and all that kind of stuff. Like, to take the test, how much is it?
I mean, it depends on the one, but we'll say a hygiene exam is $900. We'll say
that's pretty good. Well, how many people take it and then fail?
The state doesn't make that money.
Where does that go?
The whatever agency, so CERTA, credits, CDCA, whoever administers the exam.
So the agency has Florida locked up, kind of thing. Now I'm just going with my conspiracy hat. I shouldn't have put it on, but
you have it and other people haven't. I would love to just dive down this a little bit deeper, because I like these, like, CDCA, CETA these are all, actually, I don't know, I can't speak with 100% certainty, but they used to all be at least nonprofits. I'm pretty sure they're all nonprofits still. So they have some money that they're making, and they're using that to pay for the process to administer these exams. Some years they're profitable, other years they're not profitable, just kind of the ebbs and flows of business. But they're not allowed to, like, keep money and pocket it, and even in this merger with CERTA, whatever assets CERTA has, because they're a nonprofit, they either have to donate or roll it into one of the other testing agencies.
Okay,
so it's not like it's not like there's a bunch of money being like
no. Wait. Not for profits can make a ton of money. Okay, so not to call out Delta Dental, but Delta Dental's not for profit, make a ton of money. Okay, so
sure.
Here's where I'm going with. So maybe they don't make a ton of money from their testing, but I'd love to see their P&Ls, because to keep an area locked up, someone is benefiting for that. So I would
love to learn who that is
donating to this, who is creating foundations for this, and then and again, please don't come at me, Florida people or whomever's in this organization, but are the officers of that not-for-profit paid at a regular not-for-profit rate? Some not-for-profits, when you take a look at it, and I've looked at this a lot because of the insurance side, there are not-for-profits out there where people are paid higher than for-profit organizations of comparable size and mission. So when you say, what's the purpose, it may not be the direct revenue on the profit and loss. It could be something completely different. And I don't want to be suspicious like that, but it's just the way that it's gone. I mean, I've looked into organizations that help missing and exploited kids and seen some backdoor stuff on there. So when I've had to track that down with a friend of mine who was doing some investigating. So when somebody says to me, well, we're not for profit, I'm like, oh, that's nice, but I'd like to, well, why are you just getting back from the Maldives? I don't understand.
You do bring up some good points. I will, to my knowledge, though, every agency that I've worked with, and I've kind of seen a little bit behind the scenes, to me, they're all on the up and up. There's not enough revenue in this game to really be like, doing group trips to the Maldives.
Why lock up an area?
But that's up to the state board, not up to CDCA or
why.
Whatever.
You and I know of certain southern state boards that are kind of backwards and don't allow things, right? So why?
Yeah. I guess that's my bigger argument for all of this. And this is what I really want to have come out of this is we have all of these things. We're trying to throw this compact thing. We're making this a complicated thing. If we could just go to Florida, if we could go to everywhere else and be like, look, take these 2 exams and we're done. We're done. We have our portability, reciprocity, whatever, across all 50 states. We're done at that point.
So is there so perhaps hygienists as a whole coming out of school, maybe you guys get ahead of this a little bit and I don't know, maybe this is too much, but maybe you just plan on taking both exams and then you got the whole country at your fingertips, right? And
I mean,
and
that's
don't
not a
know.
good idea. And I know we
Okay,
don't want to
all
advocate
right.
for that because that.
But
First
if it's
of all,
somebody that wants
stressful.
to move, like a military, so you've got, but don't you have different reciprocity for like military wives or spouses?
It's
Because
per state though. It's so the
see,
scope of practices are so
military
different.
advocate for that. Like that's wrong. That's wrong.
Okay. Well, let's
Are we really going down the rabbit hole? Because I really,
a little bit.
I
But
can't do a long thing with you today.
I know. You're like, we have 30 minutes and it's like 48 minutes already. So, but here's the thing with military and this, look, people working on bases, highly qualified, skilled professionals. I'm not saying that you aren't good. Okay. I need you guys to hear that because this is going to sound like I'm saying that, but I'm not saying that. The problem is when you have, let's say, a Washington State, which is like kind of my one I always pick on because they do have a little bit different. Within their license, they're allowed to do so many things, include place fillings and local anesthesia, et cetera, et cetera. If you are someone who is trained in, let's say, Texas, who just now passed local anesthesia, so you did take some of the education courses, but you never really practiced it. You definitely didn't do any restorative courses, and you didn't take any boards or whatever. Through reciprocity, with military, you're saying that they should just go ahead and go work in Washington State and have the full license, and that just doesn't make any sense.
Well, honestly, it kind of does because who is hiring these people and letting them do that without knowing that they can do it? So as a manager, as a business owner, I'm not going to hire somebody and they just say, oh, I can give anesthesia and, or I can give anesthesia. Well, have you given any anesthesia? No, but in theory, I could give anesthesia. It's on me to hire you and to make sure that you're
but you have high
competent for the
standards
job.
that way, though. There's a lot of unscrupulous people managing and...
But you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater for one or two instances, whereas a whole. So in the Northern Virginia area, we have military everywhere. We have two things. We have government workers and military. Yeah, well, they're kind of the same thing. But when I say government workers, I'm talking like the U.S. government, right? Like, sit at a desk, no one can fire them type of thing. So sorry, I might have been talking about some of my neighbors. But anyways, who don't listen to this podcast. Anyways. I can't tell you how many hygienists we brought in, and then they're licensed in Virginia because, maybe Norfolk, they came from down there, got their, degree. Then they get stationed somewhere else and they're like, well, I'm not gonna be able to work. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like one of the best hygienists I've ever met. So that sucks is what I'm talking about. Like, why can't, if you're a military wife or husband, of course, why? Like, why is that a thing? So
because
shouldn't there be some extenuating circumstances?
And Washington does that. They do actually have a basic license in which they give people from out of state the ability to practice only hygiene procedures. But
okay, give me the basic license.
But for the purposes of the argument, though, there is, we talk about oral cancer screenings, using lasers, all these different things that are within the scope. If you are a dentist working in Washington State, and for your whole entire career, all of these people have been able to do these things very efficiently. And you get someone who comes from out of state who you don't really know they're from out of state, but they know how to clean teeth, so you're good to go. And then you expect them to be like everyone else in the state. I think that's not really all that fair.
No, but I think like I said, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater for one or two issues. Like as a hiring manager, any DSO, any small company like myself, we are going to ask, what are your capabilities? And if on the resume, it doesn't say injection and I'm an injection state, then I'm going to be like, do you give injections? If they say no, that's going to factor into whether or not I hire you. So
I think you're being incredibly optimistic about that. We can talk about offline.
You know what? I think I have to be but I think I have to be because I can't, I don't want you to create a huge rule that knocks out the majority of the applicants, for a couple, unscrupulous people. That to me, like we can't operate that way. I'm trying to be fluffy about this. I really am.
It's okay. But it goes to the point though, again, if we get every state to just accept these two exams, most of our problems are going to be over.
Okay.
With this reciprocity thing.
So is there a movement for that, or is everybody moving forward with the bragging
Everyone's doing
rights
this
of
compact stuff, and that's why I'm all fiery and feisty about it. I'm like, this is not the godsend you all think it's going to be.
Okay.
And so,
so what I'm hearing is you want us to adjust our excitement about this and be realistic.
Yeah,
about it.
I mean, I think that it's gonna help some people, right? But when you look at the overall population, it's this whole thing, and not baby with the bathwater again, but it's like you want to really change everything to accommodate a very small amount of people, or we can change similarly a couple of things and let this affect everyone across the board and make it fair for everybody across the board. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And I don't think, since it's already accepted in most states for both exams or either exam, that, you know, we only have a few outlier states that we need to work on. If we all came together and said, look, you outlier states, get your crap together, man, let's do this. Man, it's going to be such a nicer world. I can go apply to any state that I want almost at that point.
So in reality, they're actually accommodating these outlier states by creating this whole like national campaign and all this stuff. But it actually, like, for them, it's a good campaign because they can get some street cred.
They're going to make money.
Yeah, and you know that is the driving force behind it all. I did not know that about how we kind of already have it for the states that, you know, are already participating. So this is good. I didn't know that. Here I am thinking, yay, we can start hiring all these people. So I think this is I did not know this. So I'm glad you woke up grumpy, or not grumpy, but you got grumpy.
Yeah. That one conversation this morning just lit that fire. And oh, geez, here we go. Teresa, I need you. So no,
it's so funny.
I appreciate you like letting me vent. That's the thing about this podcast. Like, I don't really get to say my opinion very often. Like, I have to do like the interview part of it, you know, whatever. And people don't really know what I want. And then like I'll come out like really feisty, like I did on this episode. People are like, holy crap, he's kind of a jerk. Like, I don't know if I like that guy after all.
No. I think people want that. So they want that passion, because there's too many people out there that are like, well, it could be okay, you know. So I think it's good to hear both sides of it. I did not know this, and I appreciate you having me push back on you, because I don't actually get to do that very much on my podcast now that I'm thinking about it.
You want me to come on your podcast and push back on all your dumb ideas?
I think we should actually cross post this episode on my podcast.
You want to? Yeah, we can.
Yeah, let's do that. And you're welcome on my podcast anytime. Are you kidding me?
I know. You've invited me lots of times, to be fair, and I keep turning
Listeners,
you down.
Listeners, are you hearing that?
Like,
I get
to say.
I get shut down with you, I swear.
What do I have to say? No, I don't.
What do you have to say? What do you have to say? What do you mean? You're a podcaster. You have tons to say. That's like asking me, a public speaker, what to say. Listen, I got tons to say. And I know what buttons to push. You come on the podcast. We'll push some buttons.
It's a deal. No, it's a deal. We will make this happen. And also, we need to get our monthly calls going again.
For sure.
Throwing that
for
out
sure.
There.
Yeah, we will definitely do that.
Thank you, Teresa, for being on this, and for your audience. You're welcome for being on your show, I guess. I don't know. If people want to reach out to you, though, how can they find you? OdysseyMGMT.com. So for your audience, you know, I talk a lot about insurance and management, so I may not totally be your jam, but if you want some funny stuff, the other podcast that I'm a part of is Chew on This with our friend Kevin Henry. And I know that does make Andrew giggle because he sent me messages. So we do get really goofy. We talk about salacious stuff, you know, people sleeping with each other in the office and so forth. So we love that stuff, right? Those stories. It's so good. It's one of those things, like, we're supposed to be dental professionals, but like, we can't like that kind of stuff. So listeners, I'll put that in the show notes. So make sure that you guys check out the show notes. You guys can click right through there to those podcasts. But yeah, Teresa, thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.